guys, well, there you are. There's Kleberg. You can't miss him. The manly beard, and the other guys taking their way into the dressing room.
The other thing about World Cups is it's a 30-man squad with a really large support staff. So there's 8 players not dressing here. They've got a tough job. They want to support the team that's dressing, but they also need to stay out of the way. And you see, that's one of the great sights, Brian. That's what you miss when you retire, is the jerseys laid out, everything ready for you there. And yeah, it's a wonderful sight to see.
Yeah, here's the Canadian forwards, and they're going to be under pressure. I think they have to establish themselves early. They have to win good, clean ball. We talked about discipline. Jamie Cudmore, he likes to get up to some argy-bargy sometimes. He's going to have to play a very sound, disciplined game. They may go at him, actually, trying to get him off his game. They need a big game out of the back row. The Tongans are going to be all over the field, and obviously the back line.
There is that moment where you have to have the discipline, but you also have to play aggressively as well. Yeah. So you kind of have to manage that.
Well, if Jamie Cummer wasn't playing aggressively, he's not doing what he's there for.
Yeah.
We just saw Anna Monroe and Eddie Fairhurst. They're the 9-10. They're the first choice 9-10, so they'll be running the show. And these 3 in the back, Kieran Hearn, big man running with the ball. McKenzie scored 3 tries in the last 3 games he's played. And that man, talk about commitment for the national cause. His lovely wife, or partner Jenny, is back in England expecting a baby on Friday, and she's let him go. And he must be, hopefully he's not heard any news that would distract him.
Well, let's hope not, because he is, of course, key. Pritchard's kicking has got to be spot on.
Well, part of that discipline that Brian's talking about is if they offend, we have to kick the points and punish them, keep the scoreboard ticking over.
And the other thing is, looking at the conditions, it looks very windy. But Pritchard is such a sharpshooter. He draws the ball in, and his boot could be the difference today.
Yeah, and there's Pat Rarden, the leader on the day, and I know I just got a text from Burnaby Lake Rugby Club. They're out there. Packed clubhouse, says we'll see you all across the country, because World Cups only come every 4 years, and it's a great chance for our supporters to celebrate.
And the opportunity to lead your country, tremendous honour, of course, but it's much more than just tossing the coin. What's rugby captaining 101? What are the 1 or 2 things you absolutely have to do?
Well, the bulk of your work should have been done before this point. I mean, you set some goals for your team, and you make sure everyone is accountable. But in a World Cup scenario, it is very unique. And you may want to keep your eye open if it's a couple of younger players just not quite focused, or maybe getting overwhelmed by the occasion. And we saw a brass band there. We see all the Tongan support in the background. So that's often something you need to watch for. Just make sure everyone's on plan and everyone's okay.
I mean, you're all there for a reason. You need not to be distracted, Brian, by all the pomp and circumstance.
Absolutely. And I also think the timing of this game is very important to get that first win under their belt and build from it. If Canada gets thumped today, things could unravel a bit. I think it's very important they start this game off well and go hard for 80 minutes and get the W.
They lead Tonga overall by 3 internationals to 2. Is that just a happy statistic? Does that have any relevance going into this game?
I wouldn't say it's particularly relevant. I mean, we have noted they're probably more experienced than us. They've got more players playing at a higher level professionally, so a huge challenge. But Canada will be very, very tight. And it's really in many ways a test of all these guys who've been playing domestically in Canada. Can the fact that we're so much fitter and so much tighter, can that lead us through today?
And it's also about performing what you've been picked to do, Brian, about not freezing on the big stage.
Absolutely, and just doing your job. Everyone has a job out there. They've got to make their tackles, and I'm going to say it again, they have to minimize their mistakes because they will be punished for their mistakes today.
Not sure about the mistake with Phil McKenzie. He's had the bleached blonde job as well. He apparently has orange boots, so he'll be difficult to miss. So let's hope he puts up a performance to go with the hairstyle and the boots.
Yeah, a few of the Tongans had similar treatments, but here's the long, slow walk. This is when it really starts to come home what you're doing. They will, of course, have the anthems, and in Tonga's case, they'll be presenting us with their war dance. And
Sipi Tau, they call it, which is the Tongans' haka, I guess.
Yeah, and again, people say, oh, it must be great to face it. It is great to face it, but if you're really distracted by that, or if you get in any way intimidated by it, then you will not be having a good
Very
game.
quickly, Gareth, quick word about the Canadian mascot.
Canadian mascot, it's a wonderful story. They're calling it Captain Green. It's a little moose they've got, but you'll see it on the side of the pitch, hopefully. It epitomizes a great experience they had with Captain Green, a soldier in the Canadian Forces. He was a rugby player for the Vancouver Rowing Club, and he took an axe in the head, quite a horrific accident, as we see the teams come out now, and the mascot will be coming out with them. Horrific accident, and he's recovered, he's come through it, and he and his young family are out, and really gave the guys a great talk and a great motivation. So they've dedicated their mascot on this performance to Captain Green.
So there is the confirmation of the Tongan 15. Morat's the fullback for Tonga, who we remind you were beaten in their opening game, and there is the Canadian starting lineup. As Brian has told you, just about as good a team as Crowley can pick for this game as we near the national anthems at the Northland Event Centre in Whangarei.
Interesting, Nigel. Usually in these kind of situations we add up the caps. Canada has 381 caps, and Tonga only has 130 caps. Normally that would represent a lot more experience, but in this case that isn't the fact. It's because so many of these Tongans play for European professional clubs, play for New Zealand clubs, and don't get released. And another interesting thing, Brian, we were talking about this, but Canada has a 4 and 3 bench, which means 4 forwards and 3 backs. I'm surprised perhaps that they didn't pick maybe an extra forward on there, 5 and 2.
Yeah, the forwards are going to obviously have a very physical match, and they'll start rolling the bench in the second half.
Commentary team Tony Johnson, Justin Marshall and Matthew Cooper, but before all that, the national anthems.
Well, it is such a proud moment in the lives of these young men. And the preliminary's not quite over yet, because so many in the crowd have waited for the moment that is upon us. The Ikalitahi Tonga about to perform their challenge. challenge to Canada. Stand by for kickoff in just a moment from Whangarei at the Northland Event Centre as Tonga take on Canada in Rugby World Cup 2011. Well, what a sight, Sione Timani there. And the Canadians wearing that alternate dark strip, predominantly black with the red and the maple leaf, of course, of Canada. They've got a few fans here today too. It really has built up beautifully, this driving up from Auckland early on today. The roads full of supporters coming to this ground, and of course the locals have come here in force too. So thrilled to be hosting 2 matches here at Rugby World Cup 2011. Fetu Vainikolo played as representative rugby here for Northland for a couple of seasons. There is Taniela Moa. What an interesting call from coach Isi Tolamaka to play him at number 10. Here's hooker Ephraim Taukafa, veteran of this Tongan side. And it is Tonga who are going to play into the wind. So it's Canada to kick off. Referee for today's game is South Africa's Jonathan Kaplan, who'll be aided by Steve Walsh and Stuart Terhig. Canada with the wind, a strong wind in the first half here in Whangarei. So Canada kick off their first match here at Rugby World Cup 2011, second for Tonga. And it's going to be tough going for the Tongans in the first half, pushing into that wind, but here's a good start for them with a penalty. And let's go to the sideline and get a word on the conditions. Former All Black Matthew Cooper.
Well, thank you, Tony. It's an outstanding atmosphere. We know that. Strong wind, and also the sun's coming out too. So Tonga won the toss, and they've decided to go into it, but they've also got to face the sun as well. So this is a big challenge for the Tongans. Ikalitahi in the first 40 minutes.
Kurt Morath from fullback puts the ball into touch up towards halfway where Steve Walsh has the flag up. Set piece, crucial. Canadians will look to get primary possession, but Canada, well, pushing into that wind. Tonga going to have the ball blown back on their side. Lua Lokotui with the first line-out win. Here's the first touch for Taniela Moa. He swings it wide. It's a loose pass. And Kurt Morath it is, who cleans up just out from his own 22. Maka takes it forward. Now Palu to Moa. Well, he'll use his passing game to effect it. Here's Sami Vahafalau. Offloads away to his hooker, Taukafa. Well, 11 changes to this Tongan side, but no change in the way they're going to play the game. And Canada are going to have to make a lot of tackles. And here's a good strong run from Fatafihi. Former winger now playing in midfield for Tonga. And they're making good progress. More runs, turns it back to Helu. Kleberger going in, trying to win it for Canada, but this is a good start from Tonga. Canadians have not yet had their hands on the ball.
Number 2.
Thomas Palu ready to clear. I just rolled it along the ground.
Roll out 5.
Where Timani gathers it.